A wonderful evening to all our viewers out there. Welcome to Scorecard on Channel 1 TV. Benjamin Nketia here. It's been an absolutely great weekend. And as far as the football things are concerned, it's like there was a little jinx on all the big teams this weekend. You know, Bayern Munich failing to win, Arsenal failing to win, Liverpool failing to win. I don't know what was going on this particular weekend, but we have the title contenders getting a win despite it being tricky. I'll tell you about the title contender. You know already if you've been watching the show. We have new title contenders on the block. They will accept the responsibility whether they like it or not. And then we also talk about some Spanish La Liga action. Real Madrid were involved in a highly, highly dramatic game. Barcelona were losing when I was coming on air. So the jinx is still not gone. So it's still somewhere hovering above the big teams. But the text and WhatsApp lines are on your screens. You can text into the show. You can share your feedback, your opinions with us. My two good friends are in the studio with me. Susu Graham is here. Edwin Kwakofi returning to Scorecard. Guys, welcome to the show.
It's good to be back.
I know. What's been on your minds? I mean, this weekend, what's caught your eye?
Like, before we go anywhere, I have to wish.
Please.
Obviously.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So, for our viewers out there, today is the birthday of Sheikh Ni Abba Al-Thani. Charlie, he has like too many names. The rabbi, too many names. Today is his birthday. He said the missus has taken him out. Oh, Charlie.
And the missus will be in a very good mood
No,
too.
the missus,
both of them actually.
No, he said when I called him, he says, I know how he does his things.
So he has one smooth and one chaff. Oh.
He says, no, once I know how he does his things, he's in good hands. So I should be rest assured. So, Coach Christopher Nimile, happy birthday to you from the Scorecard team, from the Channel 1 sports team, from the Citi sports team.
We even played the dedication for
yeah,
you know,
Charlie.
I'm wearing my picture.
we played your signature song for you. So wherever you, I'm sure you see this a little later, but I'm sure you are having a blast. Continue to be a great guy.
Double. It looks like I'm ringing perfect birthday.
Double smooth, double chap.
The perfect birthday present.
He has his thing going on. Let's take a quick intro break. When we come back, we'll get into some of the topics for this particular weekend. There's a lot to chew on. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us here on Scorecard. Just like I like to do all the time, I like to feel the guys out for what they've been keeping an eye on, what's intrigued you this weekend. What's going on? What's been your pick of all the action?
I mean, you said it yourself. Like all the big teams seem to have forgotten how to win football matches. Real Madrid didn't win. Liverpool, Arsenal, Barcelona were losing before we entered. Bayern Munich was Arsenal, Liverpool, City also lost, but City right now it looks like it's becoming a trend. So it looks like a very interesting weekend for teams you expect to do better just didn't do better. Juventus drew their 10th game of the. In fact, Juventus have beaten in 16 games in Serie A, but they've drawn 10. So there's that. So they also didn't win. So yeah, it looks like wins were difficult to come by for the teams you usually consider serious. So yeah.
A poor month's unbeaten run.
Yeah, you might say that, but I think you look at the resilience of the smaller teams in quotes and how they played this weekend. I think throughout the season we are beginning to see some of these less fancy teams get in the faces of the bigger clubs and show that they deserve to be in the leagues that they are in. So it makes for a better experience when you're watching football, when you're observing the league over the course of the season, that teams don't sit down and allow teams to run over them unless they are Southampton, of course.
Yeah, and even speaking on some of them, a team like Fulham, they've had some decent results. I mean, even you remember the City game that we were talking about that they should have won if not for Adama Traore. They did well against Liverpool as well. But Bayern's loss, I think, is probably the most interesting because that's their first loss in the league this season. So that's why it stood out. Rayo Vallecano probably should have beaten Madrid based on their chances. So I think look, that's the way football is. That's why we like it, because it's such a low-scoring game. It means that 1 or 2 goals can just change the destiny of a game in a way that doesn't happen in other sports.
I dare say that this season, there hasn't been a dominant team in Europe.
Yeah, Barca were the ones who we thought.
And then they had their ruts too.
Liverpool also had their run. Almost 20 games.
I think what it is that either a team is very good in the league like Bayern, but you see them struggling a bit in the Champions League. I think Liverpool have been the closest. Liverpool have definitely been the closest. But usually a team is either very good in the Champions League or poor in the league, but not both.
Not both. I see. Let's get into it. Let's start off with the local league. There was the biggest game in Ghanaian football on display at the Baba Yara Sports Stadium. It was Accra Hearts of Oak traveling to play Kumasi Asante Kotoko in Kumasi. Let's get the highlights. Accra Hearts of Oak, I'm sure that journey to Accra will be a very silent one. Let me start with you, Edwin. Not the most highly marketed game, but Kumasi fans showed up as best as they could. The football on display wasn't bad either, but look at that ending to that game.
Look, the two teams, the GFA and the league, might not have done this fixture a lot of good in the last couple of years. But when these two teams step up, when the players step up, they usually produce a very good game. And today was such one of such games. I thought Kumasi Asante Kotoko deserved the win overall. However late it came, they played a better football. They had the better chances. They actually missed a few really, really good chances in there. Albert Amwa, who scored the winning goal, he missed a really good chance. He had one disallowed earlier in the game. Baba Yaya also had a very, very good chance, which somehow he put over the bar. And I think Hearts of Oak defended really well. Kelvin Osei-Sibi was fantastic in defense. And the goalkeeper, Benjamin Asari, he was very, very good. Saved one pretty good free kick as well in the second half. So it looked like it was eking out to a draw. A draw would have been a fair result for both teams at that point in time. But when you make such a huge error in a crucial game like this, in a critical moment, it just lets everyone
Is the error
down.
purely on the goalkeeper? Because I feel like, I think it was Osei-Sibi who was, he was just shrugged off the ball, and then the striker went in one-on-one with the goalkeeper.
I actually don't blame the goalkeeper for this. Or maybe I might give him a little bit of the blame for not communicating.
I don't know if we can see that on our screens again. If we can just have it while Edwin continues.
For not communicating well with his defender, because that ball was heading into the box where the goalkeeper could have easily grabbed it. However, Osei-Sibi, I think he panicked in that moment where he had been very, very stable throughout the game and calm throughout the game. He panicked in that very crucial moment and let in Albert Amwa to score that goal. And it will hurt Hearts fans because they looked like they were getting away from the Baba Yara Stadium with a draw, a point, which would have kept them above Kotoko and which would have given them a boost going into further games, because in the last few games they've had a very, very good run, winning games, not losing. And this seemed like the game that will take them.
Kotoko were in a bad run.
Kotoko were in a bad rut as well. So losing like this will hurt Hearts fans, but it might also reignite Kotoko's season, because in the last few weeks they've been very, very poor, struggled to get goals. If they manage to beat their fiercest rivals in a game like this, I think it might do a lot for not just the players, but for the coach as well. And we saw how he reacted after the game. He was wild in his celebrations, Prosper Nateogo. So if you see him like that, he's usually the calmest person
cool guy,
around. So if you see him like that, you know how important such a win is. So good work for Kotoko, but hard luck to us.
I'm just looking at the goal again, and it looks to me like poor communication.
Very poor communication.
Asari and Esibe didn't.
I think even communication is only half of it. I think the defender, in trying to clear the ball and he completely misses it, it throws the keeper off. I think he messes up the clearance he's trying to do. Because if you watch it again, look at it.
All he needed to do was hold off the defender, allow the
just put his body
but
in front of the defender.
because he tried to make the acrobatic clearance and failed, it threw the keeper off. So basically, these guys turned something that was not, there was no chance there. This was easy. The keeper will catch the ball, he will lie down, you take your nail.
It's a Hearts Kotoko game, so probably last kick of the game, there's a little panic in there.
I think maybe the game got to him.
A little panic in there.
But I felt like
he had
there
just
was
been named the man of the match, or Kelvin Osei-Sibi, man of the match, because
Really?
he had a really good performance.
Oh,
And
they
then
should
suddenly
go
this happened.
and take it back. They should go and take it back.
No, he panicked. He really panicked.
No, but look at the guy just because even that if you are going to clear the ball in that situation, that type of clearance is not what you should do. Because look at the way he threw his body.
What's going on?
The simplest thing for him to do should have been just head the ball back to the keeper. If he had even headed the ball back to the keeper and it goes over the keeper and the striker comes, I'll understand more than what he tried to do.
And that just tells you the frame of mind in which he probably was in. It was almost like a desperation clearance.
And part of it is because
he
he jumped like that, tried to clear the ball like that, and he actually kind of touched the ball, which also changed the flight. Which is why, look, you see, the flight of the ball now changed.
In fact, he even tripped his own goalkeeper slightly.
You see, so if he hadn't been what's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to dramatic with the clearance. None of this would have happened. So it's just unfortunate, but I mean, Kotoko don't care how
they don't
as
care.
long as they beat us, they are happy. So
looks like Kotoko have had Haas's number in the past couple of games now. So Asante Kotoko will be happy. If they are having a poor season and they get a win against Accra House of Folk, it washes away all the sins, at least until the next bad result. Let's move it on to Europe. Let's get into the action where it was a battle of the corner FCs. So corner FC Everton, corner FC Arsenal. Somebody said that Sean Dyche had the antidote to what Arteta has been doing in recent times, and that is exactly how it played out. It ended goalless. Arsenal barely created anything meaningful from open play. So let me start off with you. People are saying a lot of things that in the Premier League specifically, Arsenal have not scored from open play in the last 3 matches.
Set piece goals are open play goals, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, no, they're open play. It's open play.
Are they open play?
Yeah, they're open play. This says it's open play.
But you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you mean. I'm just messing. I get what you're saying.
Is there like a real situation on hand?
Well, you see, Arsenal are doing. You have to break the game into 2 parts. Stopping your opponent from scoring and scoring. And Arteta explained part of the reason they attack the way they attack is if you are a bit too quick with your attacks, you attack too frantically. You lose the ball. No, you lose the ball and the other teams come back at you. If any one of you watched the Brentford-Chelsea game before this, where I was just covering on air, Brentford, part of their problem is they attack so directly, so quick. They lose the ball very often. Yeah. And Chelsea just kept coming back at them. Arsenal are the opposite. Arsenal, because of how slow they attack, they are always in the right position. So even if they lose the ball, you can't counter them. Because in that game, Everton had 2 shots. Everton never looked like scoring in that game.
In fact, just to buttress you before you go on, Arteta's post-game presser today said that he basically trains his team to be more cautious than risky. So
yes,
he's trying not to make any mistakes at all.
The problem is he's overdone it because it's good to be in that position where you don't give up chances. It's very important. But if it's to the detriment of your attacking football, especially when you're a team that wants to win titles, because remember, the reason that football changed from 2 points to a win is 3 points to a win is to stop teams from just saying that we'll draw half our games and win half our games. Yeah. They've incentivized a win by making a draw no longer being half a win. A draw used to be half a win when it was 2 points. Now a win is 3 points. A draw is not, we can just take it like that because it's half a win. It's not like that.
You get 2 draws, that's like a defeat.
Exactly. You'd rather drop 2 points now. So when they are playing the way they are playing, they were their better team because everything didn't create anything. They created something, but they didn't create a lot. So I think the problem is Arteta needs to find the balance. He's become too cautious. I think this strategy is more useful when you're in cups, right? And we've seen this with international football, where being cautious and not kind of giving up chances is more important than playing attractive whatever football. Yeah. But the problem is that in a league it doesn't work. In a league you need to go for it. You need to throw yourself at the game. Yeah. Look at what Liverpool did against Fulham. Liverpool had no business. They were 10 men down, but they never gave up, and they got their draw. Arsenal, the way they've been playing, when Arsenal go 10 men down, look at how they play. They are very negative.
Shut down.
I get it if you're a coach, because at the end of the day, 1 point is better than 0. Yep. But you also need to be attack enough. So, and the truth is, they do create chances. But you see, part of the problem, and we always talk about this striker thing. Sometimes Kai Havertz, and look, Martinelli, for example, he's been very poor. You would think at his age, if you get a 39-year-old Ashley Young, you use your pace, you use your skill, you do something against him. There's this thing on social media where they're always laughing at Jeremy Doku. You've seen that if Jeremy Doku has a good game, it means the winger is over 30. Implying that
the fullback. That's the thing?
Yes. You haven't seen it. That what? It's a joke on social media that Jeremy Doku only has good games against fullbacks who are over 30. So people are like, Ashley Young is 39. So it means that Martinelli should have a great. And you see, as someone pointed out, so it's not as easy as you think just because the fullback is over.
Martinelli in handcuffs the whole game.
And this is a converted winger. Yep. You know. So I mean, these are the little.
On his last legs.
I think the problem is I saw a stat that the other attacking players, Trossard, Havertz, Martinelli, have 8 goals and 6 assists this season.
All together.
And Saka has about 9 goals and 12 assists or something like that. That's the problem. The other guys are just not contributing enough. So the other attacking players, they need to step up. That's really the problem here. And I'm looking at them, I don't know which one will step up. Because someone like Trossard, he's very good at finishing chances. But in a tight game where you need to create a bit more, he's not there. Martinelli, you don't know which Martinelli you get. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's bad. Kai Havertz, he's a very simple guy. You need to give him easy chances to score. He's not going to create anything for him. Gabriel Jesus, wasteful. So these other attacking players are so flawed. I just look at this team and wonder where is it going to come from. I keep saying that why don't we see more of Sterling?
I was just about to ask.
Because for me, he's the only one that we've not seen a lot of for us to see whether he can do something. And then
Why?
Ethan Nwaneri, is that how you pronounce it?
Nwaneri.
Yes. So I'm thinking maybe he should be starting more games. Maybe he should stop this Rice, Merino, Odegaard thing where it's like two defensive midfielders and Odegaard and put another midfielder who can do something, because clearly you need that creativity. I understand you're afraid of the counter attack, but with all due respect, Everton hadn't scored an away goal for 2 months. They were very unlikely to break that duck in this game. He should have been a bit more, a bit less cautious, a bit more ready to throw caution to the wind, because you need a win. And the fact that Liverpool had a red card after 15 minutes, if maybe he had been checking his live score, I don't know whether manager.
But if you actually bumped into that Liverpool game, you would never have been able to tell that they were a man down.
Yeah. And that's my point. If you have in your mind that Liverpool are a man down and a goal down in the 15th minute, and at halftime you haven't scored, I'd be thinking that you take off one of those defensive midfielders and bring on an attacker, because you tell yourself that, look, Liverpool are very likely to drop points today.
Yeah.
Let's throw the kitchen sink at Everton and try and get a result, because those 3 points will help us. So I think I don't have a problem with half his approach, because it's very important to keep compact. Because that's even similar to what City are trying to do now, and it's not working. But they need to do more on the attacking side. And right now, I feel like half of it is the players. A lot of those other attacking players need to step up. And that's part of the problem. They are not doing anything.
Arsenal finished the game with an XG of 1.58 to Everton's 0.17. So that's how it played out. Edwin, talk to me a little bit more about Sterling. Not seeing him a lot this season. He's an Arteta guy. Known him for Manchester City, won championships together. Why is he not getting a look in face of all this crisis?
That's a surprise to me, because Sterling may be past his prime, but he's still a useful player to have in reserve. And it surprises me that after Martinelli struggles this season, he's not trusted Sterling more. There was a period where, of course, Sterling was unavailable because he was hurt. He missed about 3 or 4 games in the period. He had actually started his time with Arsenal very well in the League Cup. He got a couple of goals and an assist in one of Arsenal's games. But in the league, he's barely got a look in. The most I've seen of Sterling is that game against West Ham, where Arsenal were way ahead and they were able to throw him in. But you want to trust a player like Sterling, who is used to the big games, used to a title race, used to winning titles in such games against Everton. But going back to the game, I think we are a little unfair on Arsenal. And I like that you mentioned the XG stats. Arsenal had over 1.
Yeah, that's
1.58.
Or 1.58.
The issue is not the other players are not stepping up, really.
They were actually really good in terms of chance creation. Saka had a chance. Martinelli had a very good chance. Odegaard had a very, very good chance. One problem they had was Pickford had his best game of the season. One of those games where Pickford shows why he is England's #1. He saved everything that came at him. And for a team like Everton under Sean Dyche, if you choose to play defensively, you need to be committed to it. And they were committed to it. In defense, if Ndiaye is beating for the ball, Doucouré comes in and covers immediately. If Doucouré is beating to the ball, Gay comes in and covers immediately. The defense was solid throughout. They might have not gone for a goal. In fact, they got no shot on target throughout the game.
If they take 2 shots, the whole game. They're not trying to win.
But once you know you are going to commit to defense, you need to play it as hard as you can. And I felt that's what they did. They kept Arsenal at bay. And if you had gone into this game and said, I'm going to give Everton a point, a clean sheet from this game, they would have bitten your hand off. So I think they've done their job. They've stuck to it. Arsenal, there are questions as to their mentality, and I get those questions. Liverpool behind and 1 man down at halftime, as Sisu said, you would expect them to, throw the kitchen sink at Everton. They didn't do that. Last week against Fulham, again dropped points when Liverpool were not in action, when everyone seems to be dropping points around them. So you've got to question Arsenal's mentality in these big moments.
For me, it all comes down to the coach. And like we said, his
about to
caution
come to
is
that.
too much. It's too much because you're in a situation where, like, and to be fair to them in the Fulham game, they were very close to getting the results. They disallowed going all of that. Let's be fair. But I think in this game, as I have a friend who supports Arsenal, he said, look, after 15 minutes, he turned the game off. The reason is he knows the way they play. When they start a game and they are looking very stiff and stodgy, it's almost like their goal is going to be very difficult. So he's not going to stress himself. And that's the problem. Arteta is not, I think Arteta he's a bit too stubborn. He's not willing to change things very quickly when he sees things are not going well. I think that's his problem. He thinks that, okay, this is the best way. And the thing is, there's some stats where it's looking like the XG and that kind of stuff. Part of the problem is not even the XG. It's that different from last season. The problem is the XG over performance. So I think between last season and this season, same stage of the season, the XG was 29 last season, this season is like 27. But the difference is they scored about 8 or 7 more goals. So it's more so that they're finishing, players taking their chance. And that's why I talked about the players stepping up. The thing about XG is that the average player will score this many goals. But if you're a top team, you should be overperforming your XG. Why? Because you have above average players. Your players should be taking chances that most players won't be able to take. And the problem is, like I said, Martinelli, Trossard, and Havertz are not doing that. Gabriel Jesus, he's not doing that. And that's why I say they need to step up. Because if you look at a team like Chelsea right now, Nicholas Jackson, compared to last season, he stepped up. Because the truth is, Cole Palmer is not playing as well as last season. But you don't even notice because
somebody's picking up the slack.
Jackson has picked up. Madueke is a bit better. Pedro Neto is doing very well. He just came. Sancho has also come and is doing very well. Caicedo has stepped up his game. Enzo Fernandez has stepped up his game. Look, you can look. Cucurella has stepped up his game.
Across board.
Yeah, everybody has stepped up. So even Cole Palmer's decline, you won't even notice it.
He doesn't have to do that much.
And that's why no one is talking about it, because it's like, what's there to talk about? Cole Palmer is not playing as well.
And he's carried them for a long while, so he's allowed to have
but Chelsea
a few
are higher
off
on the table. Chelsea have won more games. Chelsea are now a title challenger. So why are you going to say Cole Palmer? Don't deny. I know you're talking about that.
No, we'll get there. Don't worry, we'll get there.
So for me, I just feel like, honestly, the other players need to step up, because it can't be just Saka getting goals and assists. It can't be just him. Havertz, you are there. Score some goals. Gabriel Jesus, score some goals.
Don't talk about Gabriel Jesus. We're trying to ruin the conversation. We are talking about players who actually score goals. Gabriel Jesus does not score goals. Now, if you look at the table, interesting, right? Because I said, just before we take our break, I said that Arsenal had gone through probably the most difficult 10-game span to begin the season. Because in that span, they've played City, they've played United, they've played Spurs, they've played Liverpool. They've cleared every Chelsea. Big game. So I was telling an Arsenal friend that now it's your run. Like, you can go on a 15-winning game streak. And he was like...
They had 2 very winnable games.
And he told me, you know what? I know my team. So probably that run you're talking about won't happen. And just like clockwork, Fulham drop points. Everton drop points. So I don't know. Arsenal need to get their act together. I don't think the title charge or race is over. It's not even close to being over. They are in it. Chelsea is in it. Manchester City is in it. So a lot of football to be played. Let's take our first break. When we come back, we'll get into more highlights. Channel 1 TV. Let's get into some more highlights. Let's go this time to Anfield, where Liverpool Football Club were in action against Fulham. Let's get the highlights. Edwin, it's now back-to-back high-scoring draw. So 3-3 against Newcastle, 2-2 in this game against Fulham. The team that everybody said was running away with the league are not looking that invincible.
I don't think so. If you go down by a goal and then a man against this Fulham team that has been performing well, and you still manage to play as though you had 11 players on the pitch, that tells me the character this Liverpool team has. I've not seen this energy since the middle years of Jurgen Klopp's reign at Liverpool. These players are running all over the pitch. They are covering ground, so much ground that you would think there are more players on the pitch.
To be fair to them, they could have won this game actually in the dying stages.
They probably should have won this game. They had so many chances. There were a few saves from the goalkeeper. There were blocks. There were deflections all over the bar. And look, I'm impressed by this Liverpool team. They might not have won this game, but they showed enough to show that they have something that could get them the title this season. But you have to talk about Fulham too. They were very impressive for large spells of the game. I thought that on that left-hand side, they prioritized the attack on that left-hand side. And that's what they've done throughout the season. Whenever they meet a team, they target their weaknesses and their strengths. So they limit their strengths, the strengths of their opponent, and then focus on their weaknesses. So, in this game, they realized that Liverpool were very weak down the right-hand side. Trent Alexander-Arnold. And they really gave him a game down that side. Robinson and also Alex Iwobi. Iwobi last week, in their last game, played on the right-hand side. This time he was moved out left because they realized his work rate and his running was going to be a problem for Trent Alexander-Arnold and whoever supported him on that right-hand side. And of course, Robinson was very, very good in the game, put in a lot of crosses, was involved in both of Fulham's goals. So definitely that worked to a fault for Liverpool. It didn't work for them in that area. But going forward, that's where Liverpool stand out. Fulham don't have the quality of a Mohamed Salah. They do not have the quality of Trent Alexander-Arnold going forward. They do not have the tactical nous of Arne Slot. And that is where they beat Fulham at that game. Arne Slot's changes when Liverpool went down were brilliant. He actually got the team. There were moments where Liverpool left three at the back. He went to play centre back right in the beginning. But there were moments where Liverpool went three at the back, even though they were down to one man, and were able to push players forward because they knew those three were going to cover enough ground from the left-hand side to the right-hand side to not allow Fulham to take advantage of counter-attacking opportunities. So anytime the ball came forward, they stepped in immediately, whether it was Van Dijk who stepped in, whether it was Kwanzaa when he came on who stepped in, whether it was Gomez. They always had players right in front of the Fulham attackers to prevent them from getting those passes in behind. So it was a very good game, but you have to credit Arne Slot and that Liverpool team. I personally think this game has shown me that they are the favourites for the title without a doubt. They don't have any challenges. The teams that would have challenged them do not have the strengths they do, the resilience they do in key moments like this. In a game like this, I do not expect Chelsea to turn around the game and actually cause any problem for the opponents. In this game, I do not expect Arsenal to do the same.
Arsenal have been in this situation three times.
We've seen it this season.
They've not won a single one of those.
Man City were the only ones I would have expected to get into a position like this and get something out of it. But they are suffering their own problems. So Liverpool look like a team that has it all, well-balanced team from goalkeeper right to the front. And in terms of attack, they have so many options that you can count on. If Mo Salah is not having a great game, even then he manages to put in an assist that sparks the comeback for Liverpool. So I think this Liverpool team has shown that the title is within their grasp. If they can avoid mistakes like that of Robertson, mistakes like we've been seeing in the last few games, this title should be wrapped up for them.
Talk to me about the fullbacks. Maybe you want to add something after that, but
I'll talk to you about the fullbacks in Fulham.
Trent, right, looked very disinterested in this game. In fact, I think the first goal came from his end, but the error actually started from Robertson. I was actually watching this game, and then Robertson went and picked up the red card as well. In fact, he had a nightmare first 15 minutes for this game, and he's not had a good season to begin with at all. What do Liverpool do? Because Tsimikas was injured in this game. They couldn't bring in a natural left-footed player to play on that side. Trent is shaky with regards to if he's staying. What do they do with that situation?
I think if you're in a situation where Robertson is not performing and he's in his 30s, it's clear you replace him. That's an easy one because you are always going to have, once he crossed 30, you are going to have to start thinking about replacing him anyway. It was always going to be on their cards. So I don't think that is an issue in itself, knowing that it's always going to have happened. It means that maybe you just have to be a bit faster. Maybe instead of going for a guy, maybe last year, I think, okay, if you are getting the guy to replace Trent, you can get someone who's 21, 22, who can grow into the role. Now you're probably thinking, let's get someone who's 25, 26, who can play now. Maybe that's the thinking, the difference in recruitment. Now, I go to Trent Alexander-Arnold. The club is almost, according to reports, basically begging you to stay. You don't want to stay. And you're also not playing well. If I'm the coach, I'm looking at this, I'm thinking to myself, why should we
Continue to play.
Why you should continue to beg this guy? Because clearly, if he's not performing that well, he doesn't want to stay. Better for us, let him go. He's on high. His wages are not going to be. I mean, they're not low wages. They're not extremely high, but he's not on low wages. Let him go wherever he wants. If he wants to go to Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus, whatever the case is, let him go. Because if clearly he's not playing that well, Slot can decide that, look, let's find a more interesting solution, a person who more fits my style.
Yep.
Because the thing is, Klopp relied on Trent and Robertson's ability to cross the ball, their energy going back and forth, their recovery pace to kind of get in position, their pressing and that kind of stuff. But Slot has the team set up differently.
Very.
And those guys are not as important as they were under Klopp. So even Trent being offered a big contract where he's rejecting, he's actually lucky because his importance in the team is reducing, but they are still giving him that because, based on his past performance in Klopp and that kind of stuff. So I think him leaving might actually turn out to be a blessing in disguise for what Slot
a lot of Liverpool fans seem like they have made up their mind on Trent. Like, if he wants to go, he can go.
Yeah, I think based on what Slot seems to be doing, Trent's leaving will not be as big a blow as if it had been for Klopp. That's the first thing. Now, let me just talk about Fulham. They are playing very well. I think we should give them credit that, look, we've seen them get a result against Arsenal. We've seen them get a result against Liverpool this week. Games that they usually lose, they are nicely mid-table. And we have to give a lot of credit to Marco Silva and the people in charge of recruitment. Because, look, they lose Mitrovic. I think to yourself, where would their goals come from? They've rejuvenated Raul Jimenez. We are seeing something from him. Rodrigo Muniz, too, he had a very good last season. This season has been a bit slow, but he scored.
That goal was such a good goal.
Scored a nice goal. Then you have them getting Smith Rowe coming in. Iwobi went to Everton. We're like, this guy is not really that good.
He's played every game for them this season.
And now he's gone to Fulham and he's kind of revitalized himself. At a point, he was leading Europe's top 5 leagues in passes into the penalty area. It just shows that this guy was able to get the ball, find space, move the ball into dangerous areas. Just to give an example. So I think there's a lot of players who we didn't see. And Robinson, Anthony, is it Robinson?
Anthony Robinson.
Robinson, because there's Robertson and Robinson. I just want to make sure I'm on that. So Anthony Robinson, the American international, he's been very good. I've always seen him as a decent fullback, but I think this season he's taken it to another level. He's been very good. So there's a lot of nice players who are doing their thing very well. A lot of players who played for bigger clubs. Look at Leno. Leno has come in and he's been quite decent for them as well. So there's a lot of players doing good things. They are playing very well, and credit to Marco Silva because they lost João Palhinha. We all thought to ourselves that, look, Palhinha, who can lead the league in tackles, he's top 3 in interceptions, top first in fouls. Basically, he's doing everything in the midfield. First in ball recoveries. The guy is just like he was basically like
he was their midfield.
He was basically like a poor man's N'Golo Kante. No disrespect to him because that's high praise. But he was like a poor man's N'Golo Kante in their midfield. He's going to Bayern, and he's not even playing that much at Bayern, but he's going to Bayern, so you're like, okay, he's on to better things. You're wondering, how does their midfield look without this guy kind of with all that skill? Are they going to be... I thought, look, they'd concede 3 goals every game once Palhinha goes. Their defense would be very... Because they were starting a double pivot of Lukic and Andres Pereira, and I was looking at that double pivot things and stuff.
They've been very decent this season.
But yeah, the team just keeps working.
In fact, yesterday, Lukic and Pereira completely ran Liverpool ragged. Like on Saturday, they completely dominated.
All I see is that I think Marco Silva, he's kind of rehabilitated this image because if you remember, he got
fired from
Everton, I believe. Things didn't go too well. I think right now, maybe some teams that in the tier above Fulham, those that Aston Villa, Newcastle, West Ham tier, exactly. They'll start looking at him, and you are looking at especially West Ham and Newcastle.
Yeah,
I think Lopetegui and Eddie Howe are not in good positions.
Eddie Howe is trying to.
Exactly. I think those two are not their positions are not very strong. So I think Marco Silva, those 2 jobs, unless those teams decide to go and look in Europe for a manager who's doing well in Europe, he's the guy.
He's a candidate for them. Very, very well said. Let's get to the biggest game for the weekend in England. It was Manchester City hosting Manchester United at the Etihad. Now, don't forget that Ruben Amorim had beaten Pep Guardiola by 4-1 as sporting manager just before he left and took the United job. And so Guardiola probably had his eyes on this particular game despite their bad performances. But in the end, it was the guy they call Yamoussoukro Messi. He was up there doing his thing. What a goal, what a winner. United fans were literally over the moon. Let's get the highlights. Or Eric Ten Hag and sack him again. I'm telling you, he was keeping this guy on the bench and saying things like Anthony was performing well during training sessions. Anyway,
I just want to comment on that. I think when you go and request a player, I think at that point it was like the club's second most expensive player in their history. Pay about 90 million euros for him. You have to justify him, and you can't kind of bring this guy who was signed before you came, or just when you came for 30 million.
It makes you look bad.
It makes you look bad. I think that was definitely part of it.
Let's talk about the game itself. Let me start off with Edwin on this note. Amorim doesn't look like he's fully settled yet, but that's 2 wins in 2.
We forgot to do the Apeke dance.
Well, that's a coach. How many positive signs are you seeing from this team? And was this more a thing where you think United played better in this game, or Manchester City are just down there right now where they're just there for the taking with every side they play?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. City are definitely there for the taking. Teams are going into games against City and thinking they are not as dominant as they used to be. They are having a confidence problem. Players are not playing to the best of their ability. So we can actually get at them and get a few goals against them. So you look at every single game that City have played in this woeful run. They've not played very bad football. But there are moments in those games where the teams just take over, score in those moments, and that is it.
They look to me like every time they concede a goal, they say, okay, here we go again. I don't know. It looks like that to me.
Yeah, it does. And Pep needs to do a lot of work on these players. He's not been in this situation before, but neither of these players. They are used to winning. They are used to controlling and dominating games.
Cruising through the season.
This is a very new feeling for a lot of these players, and they don't know how to react to it. Sometimes you don't need a manager. He might be the best manager ever or in the Premier League history or whatever. Sometimes the players know that,
it's
okay.
not might, please.
Debate for another day.
Yeah. Sometimes the players know that, okay, it's time for me to step up as I'm a senior player. I am a winner. I know how to get out of something like this. But you look through the team and none of them look like they are able to get there. They are either young players, new players to the team who have not experienced something like this, or experienced players who have won it or are jaded and are not used to losing these kinds of games. So it's a difficult mix throughout. You look at the defender who came in recently that Pep liked to use, Poussey, who came in for a few games. He made a couple of mistakes and he's out of the team. Fans got on his back. He didn't react well to those mistakes or poor performances that he had. Rico Lewis has had a run in this team, but you can't consider him a senior player. He's still a young player trying to find his way in the league.
Not to catch you, but just to even stay on that tangent, isn't this the team that was supposed to be one with the best depth in the league? We at a point said that they had 2 players for every position.
You see, the 2 players for every position, we should think of it as not 2 players exactly. It's more like, let's say, for the 4 defensive positions, they have 6 players who Pep will move in and out of their team. And that's more what it was. It's more so that it's not 2 players. It's more like 18 players for the 22 who move. So Haaland is the only fixed one. Haaland has no backup. Then let's say they play let's assume they play a 4-3-2-1. So Kyle Walker, so they have like 5 defenders he trusts. So he has Walker, Diaz, Stones, Akanji, Ake. And then Vardio now. That's 6 defenders, right? That's not 8. And those 6, he rotates them between the 4 every game, chopping and changing, and that kind of stuff. Then you go to midfield. It's a similar thing. Roger will play every game. Then the rest of the midfield positions, you have De Bruyne, you had Bernardo Silva, you had Grealish, Doku. Who was there last season as well? I'm trying to think.
They had Oscar Bob for
Matheus Nunes. If you think about it, it's more so that he has just, let's say there's 2 positions. He has 3 very good players, so he can move around. But it's not like a backup. But when you get 5 injuries to a squad like that, you can't cover as effectively as you like. And I think that's the issue, because I think because of how much he moved the players around, we didn't realize it was 18 players. It felt like they were way more than they were. I think it's a slight perception issue. I'm not saying that they weren't quality, but they were higher quality backups in the sense that for those two positions, you have 3 world-class players, which most teams don't have. Because most teams will have maybe their 2 world-class players and then 2 decent backups. Whereas they decide to have 3 world-class players and then there's not that 4th player behind. So the fact that there's not that 4th player behind, let's say for centre-back, you have 3 world-class centre-backs. If 2 get injured and now you have to bring in that 4th person from somewhere, you feel the difference more. And then they had about 7 injuries in the last few weeks, which was why we're seeing a lot of complaining, this and that. Then it's coincided with a loss in form and that kind of stuff. So I think that the squad depth thing it's overplayed in a way, in the sense of the numbers sense. It's not overplayed in the quality sense, right? But in the sense of the numbers are not as high as you think. And let me just use Chelsea as an example, where with Chelsea, it's almost like they have 22 players of very similar quality. So if right now one player goes down, I think the only 3 players in the Chelsea team I'll say are their backup doesn't meet their level would be Caicedo, Cole Palmer, and Nicolas Jackson this season. Maybe I'll add Cucurella. The rest of the Chelsea team, if you took out one of them and put another player there, you won't really see a difference in the quality. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
I do.
Do you share the same opinion?
I actually don't. I think this thing about City having a player in each position, it was true a couple of years ago. And I think we are just spreading it over the years since.
It's not been the same.
It's not been the same. And I think Pep's recruitment has something to do with it. And it's also his unwillingness to trust young players enough has also contributed to
That's
it.
why Palmer left.
Exactly. First of all, he brought in Calvin Phillips as a replacement or alternative to Rodri. In that, it didn't work out. A lot of the players that Zinchenko has been let go, Gabriel Jesus let go, Alvarez let go. So a lot of that depth that used to exist a couple of years ago is gone. And the ones that have been brought in,
Alvarez played like 50 games last season. He played a lot of games, but he didn't play them as a striker, which was his issue.
So those players would have fit in and would have come in this critical moment where City's A team aren't playing well, where City's A team are being forced to play through pain.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know this. Kevin De Bruyne is not fit. Kovacic is not fit. Mateus Nunes is not fit. Bernardo Silva is not fit. Foden is not fit. But they are being forced to play through pain because there's no one else available. Otherwise, we'd be seeing Rico Lewis and his classmates
is
in the squad.
as well, so he
Exactly.
couldn't play. Oscar Bob
was supposed to have his breakout season.
He broke his leg.
So a lot of these players who are supposed to come in and make an impact are not doing so. Doku, Grealish, Savinho.
Savinho has not scored still.
I just have to say, the City-wide players have been very disappointing. That one, we have to say. I think Doku, there's no end product. A lot of dribbling. It's like, if he tries to cross, the cross is bad. When he shoots, he doesn't have good shooting technique, so it's not good. Like, I do not enjoy watching Doku play. And I was surprised they paid that much money for him. I think when they paid for him, I was thinking to myself, this is a lot of money to play for a guy who can't start for starting.
Very injury prone.
Because he wasn't starting for Rennes, but I think they were buying him on the premise that maybe he'll come good. It's not working out. I think Savinho, the jump up from Girona to City is difficult. I think Savinho does have the quality, but I think you also need Haaland to be playing well, which isn't happening at the same time for us to see Savinho playing well. And Jack Grealish, the less said the better. I think he gets away with it because City win a lot, but he's been just as bad as Anthony, if not worse, in my opinion. And look, in the last 2-3 seasons, if you look at him and Anthony's performance, there's no difference.
No difference.
The difference is that City has been winning titles.
So he
Jack Grealish has
goes
been getting
under the
away with
radar.
it. Yeah.
Just tie it up for me on the City bit. Do you see a point where this poor form turns around, and what will be the catalyst for it?
Oh, look, it's definitely going to turn around, and I'm sure Pep is praying every day that January comes very quickly, because he can make a few adjustments to the team. There's a number of players he could have brought in. I'm surprised they didn't make a go for Zubimendi when Liverpool didn't get him, because he would have come in, and at this moment he would have been playing. He would have been a star man in that team.
Big impact player for them.
Apart from that, Haaland needs a little break. I think we are not giving him a lot of credit. He's He's a player who plays every single game, almost 90 minutes every single game. You can't survive no matter how good you are.
You will have bad days.
You will have bad days.
True.
And as long as you don't get enough rest, you are going to have more bad days than good. And that's what we are seeing from him. He's not running at the level that you'd expect from him. He's not challenging for balls. He's actually being bullied off the ball by centre backs you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
So he also needs a rest, or someone who plays close to him, as Alvarez used to do, to take some of that burden off him, to take some of that pressure off him. But I do feel that from January, a couple of buys in very strategic positions, possibly in midfield, maybe up front, City will be back winning.
You know, I disagree on the Haaland point. I think, and it's not to disrespect Haaland, I think it's just that when you're a limited player, when you, let's say, no, and it's not, when I use the word limited, it's not in a disrespectful sense, in terms of the skills he has. He's very good at very specific things. In fact, the things he's good at,
he's very good.
He's the best in the world. And the things he's not good at, he's not particularly good. If you were to look at his attributes as a striker in those situations, and just take, like, for example, using both feet, Haaland is very one-footed. Yeah. He's not even particularly good at heading the ball, right? But very good off the ball movement, very fast, very strong.
Positional ability.
Exactly. When you meet you meet centre backs who are very physical, that's why he has problems.
Saliba.
Because
Gabriel,
those defenders can match him physically. So that, you know, he doesn't have that skill component to kind of
dribble out of tight
he doesn't
spaces.
have another string in his ball, whatever they call it, arrow in his quiver, whatever you want to call it. So I think that's part of the point. And then when the team is not even feeding him and he's not playing well, and it's very easy because everyone knows that this is what Haaland is going to do.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like
very
a combination.
Easy to scout for him.
And I don't even want to agree that he's tired because all his teammates went to go and play international football. He was at home relaxed.
We heard that Haaland had pre-season, he had rest, proper rest, and so he was about to unload.
I won't agree.
And to be honest, we saw him at the start of the season. He scored
he was scoring.
like 2 hat-tricks in like the first 3 games.
He ran out of fuel as the season goes on.
Right now, Mohamed Salah has caught up with him on the goal scorer.
How can you run out of fuel in November? How can you run out of fuel in November, Edwin?
Before game week 20.
Salah has been playing just as much, you know.
Yeah.
Salah has been playing just as much, and he's not run out of fuel.
Well,
Salah is tasked with all of Liverpool's attacking threats.
But Haaland doesn't even contribute to the build-up. He's just on the shoulder waiting to run.
Well, there are people who are saying that.
I also want to just add to the Bimenda thing. I think part of the point is that he would not have wanted to come to City. Why? You're already behind Rodri in the national team. If you come and you sit behind him at club level, you think to yourself, how many games will I play? Yeah. Will they still be picking me for Spain and that kind of stuff?
And he's Basque. He's hard to move.
Yeah, I think he will go to a club where first of all he'll be an undisputed starter.
Do you know what I think?
I think going to play behind Rodri, unless he knows, Pep tells him, okay, we are going to play 2 DMs. He knows before he moves. But Pep
Zubimendi won't go anywhere. He'll be at Real Sociedad 4 years from now. I'm telling you. He will play for a Basque club, probably retire as a Basque legend. These people, they don't go anywhere. No, he won't go anywhere.
And well, to be honest, these Basque teams, they pay their Basque players very well.
And I'm sure the taxes are better over there than they are.
Because I'm pretty sure Inaki, the Williams brothers are both on like 250, 300,000 a week.
They can afford to pay
every
you good
time
money.
you hear players, teams saying they want to buy, I think sometimes they go and then the wages they are.
And the weather in the Basque region is better than in England. So he's not moving anytime.
Apparently it rains plenty there too.
Well, he's not moving anytime soon, at least according to me. Let's take another break. The news coming through is that Barcelona are losing to Leganes. It's still 1-0. It's 96 minutes played. Game is almost over. Let's go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll get into some Spanish La Liga. Welcome back to Scorecard here on Channel 1 TV. Let's take the action to Stamford Bridge, where new title contenders have emerged as far as the Premier League is concerned. Chelsea Football Club were in great form today. Brentford have had their number for quite a couple of games in recent times, but Enzo Maresca has turned the ship around. 2 goals, clean sheet. No, it wasn't 2 goals. They considered a late goal via Brian Mbeumo. So let's get the highlights of this one. Now applying pressure as far as the top of the table is concerned. Edwin, title contenders or not?
Chelsea are in the title race.
There's
no doubt
about
it.
You're honest about it.
To be 1 point behind the leaders at this point in time,
it's simple mathematics.
They are definitely in the title race. You can't deny it. But do I expect them to win the title? Do I expect them to go the long haul with Liverpool? I don't.
Why not?
Look, before the start of the season, I mentioned, and remember at the Community Shield game, I mentioned that this Chelsea team, had the players to finish in the top 4. There was no doubt about it. The signing of Joao Felix made me think upgrade them to a second place finish. And not because of the quality of the player, but because they made the signing. The difference from this season and last season, it's not very vast. And a lot of people are, the whole banter because
ended the season very
Pochettino.
well.
Exactly. The difference is not very vast. And I think a lot of the improvements we are seeing now came from the end of last season, the final 15, 16 games of last season. The move for Cucurella as an inverted fullback into midfield, that started last season and it proved very successful. Madueke's performances improved at the end of last season. Nicholas Jackson's stable finishing started at the end of last season. Cole Palmer's importance started end of last season.
They're giving credit to Poch for some of these things.
Yes, absolutely. I think that, and I am going to repeat, is that if Pochettino had stayed, I think I would have put Chelsea in a title race. Not because he's a better manager than Enzo Maresca.
But
and I think the continuity. The players had started understanding what he wanted from them. The team had started improving because players were returning from injury. Pochettino did not have a fit Caicedo throughout the season, did not have a fit Enzo, did not have Lavia, did not have a lot of the players.
A lot of things didn't go right.
I don't think Lavia played.
Lavia barely played last season.
Yeah. And Enzo Maresca has come in, and credit to him, he's held it together with his tactics and how he has refocused a lot of the players. One particular change, Nicholas Jackson, he's actually getting him to focus on the final third and not...
So 9 Premier League goals and 3 assists.
9 Premier League goals. And his finishing has definitely improved from last season as well.
I'm actually so shocked because I can't believe it looks like a different player.
Completely different. I can't even recognize him when I look at him.
And you look, the focus on wide players...
The haircut.
The focus on wide players is one thing that's impressed me about Chelsea this season. Definitely, there's an increase in the number of crosses into the box. The average for Chelsea this season has been 15 crosses into the box in every single game. In this game, it increased because Brentford struggle with set pieces. They struggle with crosses into the box in general. The Collins,
if you're letting Cucurella score a header in your box.
Collins, Van der Berg, whoever else was in there. Pinnock, exactly. They are very tall, very burly players. But once the ball gets to mid-level, feet level, they struggle a lot. So in the first half, the idea was put the ball in as much as possible. So before Cucurella's header and before Madueke's cross, Chelsea had put in 21 crosses into the box. And that improved in the second half. They knew that was a weakness that they could exploit. And that is something that has gone through the rest of the season. The players are starting to press more. They are more energetic. You look at the last game against Aston Villa, this game against Brentford. Look at Nicholas Jackson. He might not have had the best game in front of goal, apart from the goal that he scored. But him triggering the press led to a lot of turnovers for Chelsea, which they converted into chances. You look at the game, how he runs back. He doesn't need to look at his players. He doesn't need to tell them, I'm going. Once he goes, everyone follows. They win the ball back really quickly, which happened for the second goal. Caicedo wins it back because everyone is pressing, and Enzo makes the pass forward. It was the same for the Aston Villa game, led to about 3 of the goals for Chelsea. And it's been the same for every single game. So Maresca goes into every single game with a strategy that works. If it doesn't work, he makes quick changes because he has players on the bench who can come and take over. Last season, Chelsea had at most 4 senior players on the bench to make changes. The others were youngsters. Now you can make changes for every single player on the pitch. Even Cole Palmer and Caicedo, as Susu said, have replacement.
Chelsea have so many players.
Joao
that they've let
Felix
some
barely
people go
plays in
alone.
the league, and he can fit into the number 10 position.
And
Maybe
like
not.
you said, even Cole Palmer is not as good this season,
Exactly.
but you don't even notice.
You don't
feel
even notice. So I think everyone talked about how many players Chelsea was signing in the summer and recent transfer windows. But it was for a purpose. They didn't want a season like last where a couple of senior players get injured and then there's no one to cover and the team suddenly starts falling. Right now, there's a player who can come in and do a job no matter who gets injured. And that's what's impressed me about this Chelsea side the most.
Well, let me tell you about a few interesting numbers you don't know about. Chelsea have become they're the highest scoring team in the league now. So they have 37 goals. The closest behind them is Spurs. Spurs have 36. So Chelsea have the best goal scoring record in the league. They also have the best away form in the league. They've taken 19 points away from home.
Yeah,
they scored
since the beginning of the season.
Yep.
They've been doing very well.
They scored 23 goals and conceded just 10 in 8 matches. So it looks like there is something really going on. The gears have shifted. Players have stepped it up a notch. Just touch on the Chelsea bit briefly before we move it on.
Look, I agree with a lot of the things Edwin has said, and especially the recruitment. I think the recruitment, it didn't work because the players also now getting used to each other, gelling, trying to figure out their because they bought a lot of under 23 and younger players. So you are figuring out the best role for them, the best way for them to play. Look at someone like Enzo. Enzo has been around for what, about a year now?
Yeah, a couple of years,
Yeah, it's been a while.
Enzo Fernandez.
He joined right after the World
This
Cup.
is his third season.
So Enzo has been there, and we've not seen the level Enzo is playing now, where he's like, you can see he's looking like a player you pay that money for. Before that, you bet it was in flashes. You see a flash here and there. Caicedo, same thing. You pay a lot of money for him, and he struggles.
Caicedo looks like the guy who they wanted to buy now.
Exactly, and that's another thing that's happened. Like we said, the players stepping up. That's the most important thing. That's why I even mentioned it before, that we are not seeing that. If you look at Arsenal, you are not seeing other players stepping up. The whole team needs to step up for you to be in a title race. And like we are saying, Liverpool, I felt Liverpool dropped points at a point. I thought it would be Arsenal who would pick up the slack because, like we said, they had already had the hard games, time to go on and run. But we have to give serious consideration to Chelsea. I don't think they'll win the title, not because they are bad or anything, but I just feel like they're just a tier below Arsenal and Liverpool right now, and even Man City.
In terms of what?
In terms of player quality, I think the players are still rising.
Defense and goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think the players are still becoming the players. I think someone like Levi Cole, he's not very good. I'll be very honest. I'm not very impressed with him. I feel like if you have to rely on him for the...
He just say like that, he's not very good.
No, because I feel like if I have to rely on him for the whole season...
Charlie, but he's highly rated by the Chelsea Academy people.
He makes a lot of mistakes. When you watch him,
I
am I imagining this?
He falls in the category of the players we were talking about, lefty defenders who know how to pass a little, and so they get the hype gets overblown.
I feel like he makes a lot of mistakes. You know, I feel like they can, and like you said, the goalkeeping and defense. There's a few positions they can improve. I think the centre backs. They are struggling to find good centre. That's why I say Cole.
Fofana, if he had lived up to
and Fofana, I think and Badiashile also doesn't look great. Disasi too, we are not really sure about him.
He's hot and cold.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The centre backs are not really there. But I'll say the full backs, Malo Gusto and Cucurella are very good.
Malo Gusto
I think
turned out to be a really good
the
signing.
midfield is very good. The wingers, I think right now, the way I see it, because of the quality they have between Sancho, Pedro Neto and Madueke, I think they'll be very fine in terms of if you want any winger to play. You definitely have quality. Jackson is playing very well. Nkunku is his backup.
They still have
and then, like you said, Robert Sanchez, we're not he's here and there. But
he's always an error waiting to happen.
And I think the reason I notice Cole is I feel like every time I watch Chelsea, he's playing. And I always he does something. I think the Liverpool game, he did something.
You know the funny thing?
Who did they play last week? No, the week before.
Which one? Before the Villa game?
Yeah, before, you know, the election week, we were a bit busy. The weekend before that. I think that I also saw him make a mistake. Maybe he tried to clear the ball or something.
Funny thing, every time he makes a mistake, then he looks shocked. As if I was the one who made the mistake. I don't even understand.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Always looks really shocked.
Those little things are what I feel like the Liverpool squad is a bit more balanced. The Arsenal squad is a bit more balanced, even though they are not scoring. At least I know the Arsenal team, 90% of matches they go into, I feel like they won't concede. You know? I feel like they will be solid defensive. With Chelsea, I don't feel the same way. And you can't always outgun the opposition, because if Nicolas Jackson has one of his last season games where he just misses every chance he gets, he'll be in trouble. So.
Well, Chelsea Football Club, title contenders, over to you. Let's move it on to Spain. Let's get to that game between Rayo Vallecano and Real Madrid. Real Madrid have been very poor this season. Some way, somehow, they are still tied on points with Barcelona following Barcelona's result today. Abdul Mumin, Ghanaian defender, was on target in that Rayo game. So let's get the highlights. See Palazzo in Ultimate Team and stuff like that's crazy that I'm seeing him score against Real Madrid. But let me take your thoughts on this one. Real Madrid not having the best of times. 3 goals conceded against Rayo. I mean, that's unacceptable.
If I remember correctly, Rudiger is the only fit senior centre back.
They have quite an injury crisis.
Yeah, you see, the injury problems at the back are very. Because Militao tore his ACL again, if I remember correctly.
Alaba is out.
Alaba, no, so Alaba is fit, but then what I remember is that his knee pain is not going away. Yeah. He's done his surgery,
so yeah,
he's recovered,
basically says
but he has chronic knee pain. Yeah. So in fact, they are thinking about he might have to retire because if he's in chronic knee pain. Because we saw Jesus Navas retire.
They did say that they had slated a mid-January return date for him, but it's all very up in the air.
Jesus Navas retired this weekend because of chronic hip pain. Apparently, Jesus Navas' hip is so bad he can't walk after games. That's just by the way. So sometimes these players, they're in pain, but they are still playing. Yeah. So if Alaba has chronic knee pain, he won't be effective. So if you have only Rudiger and he's playing with Tchouaméni, Tchouaméni has some good games at centre back. But can you rely on Tchouaméni to play centre back the whole season? Nope. I'm not sure. You have Asensio, the young guy. There's a reason he's not been promoted to the first team. Jesus Vallejo, it looks like.
So they currently have Mendy out injured, Mbappe thigh injury, Militao knee injury, Carvajal knee injury, and then Alaba.
So Carvajal, your right back is gone.
Yeah.
Mendy, I think, might come back. And then, so the defense
they've been operating with a makeshift right back in Lucas Vazquez.
Exactly. The defense is just a mess. So it makes everything difficult. So they will concede some goals they shouldn't concede. And it will just be difficult. The midfield is okay. Because, their players are there, they have the quality. They always have the quality in front of goal. They are still figuring things out. I think the chemistry with Mbappe is still not there. Obviously, it's going to take some time. Mbappe likes to now drift to the left, They have to figure those things out. But, look, I feel that if you look at Real Madrid's firepower, the way Real Madrid plays, and the fact that they are so close to Barca, they can still win.
In fact, they have a game in hand. If they win, they go top of the table.
Exactly. So I think the title race we thought was over after the Clasico. It looks like we jumped the gun. So here they are way ahead. It's going to be a very interesting title race. I think right now I'll give Real Madrid the edge because they have that experience. They've won it before. They have, and when I look at the fact that you have Mbappe, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Bellingham leading your attack, with all due respect to Lamine Yamal, Rafinha, and Lewandowski, and Dani Olmo, they are a step below those guys. So it's going to be a very interesting few months coming ahead. But I think Real Madrid, with the fact that Barca have lost and with this game in hand, even though they didn't get the win here, I think they are still in a good position.
Edwin, who has the edge in La Liga?
I agree with Suso. I think Real Madrid do have the edge. And that's because Rodrigo, a very important player for Real Madrid, has returned from injury and he's contributing as well. Bellingham, he's not been at his very best with Mbappe in front of goal with Mbappe and Vinicius all staying up front, but he is starting to contribute goal in terms of goals as well. They still have Mbappe to come back from injury. Vinicius also returning from injury. He came on in the second half of the game. But when it all meshes together, as Susu said, when they have a few more games under their belts, they are able to build that chemistry. They have a solid squad. Once they start getting the defenders back as well, I think obviously Carvajal will need to be replaced. He's done it all, seen it all. They need a right back, somebody who can play as a right back in that squad. They might need a left back because I'm not convinced entirely.
Real Madrid.
Yes, I'm not.
So they have Mendy and then Fran
Garcia. I'm not entirely convinced by Mendy in the left back position, but I think Fran Garcia is a good player to have growing up and developing with the team.
Playing time at all.
And you see, you finish.
I was saying that that's why they obviously wanted Alphonso Davies in that position. It didn't work out. They might go again for him.
I heard he's about to sign a new Bayern contract. He's had a U10, but that's what I've heard.
I can't believe it.
Fine, but they need to strengthen in that position as well. I think in midfield, if Tchouaméni is allowed to play in midfield and not as a centre back, they have Camavinga in as well. They have one of the strongest midfields in world football. So this team is pretty settled. It's just chemistry that needs to be built and developed and they'll be one of the better sides. I think Barcelona, there are a lot of things going on with that squad.
Very
young players coming in, but also old players who need to be moved on, who are still central to how they play. And I'm talking about Lewandowski, great striker, fantastic player, but he also
Guy says he feels young. Why are you trying?
I'm sorry, but he's nearing the age where he should be
closer
playing.
to 40 than 30.
Exactly, he's nearing the age where he should be playing the MLS or in Saudi Arabia.
Talking about a new contract.
He's scoring goals, all right, but you still need somebody in there who can give you 90 minutes for. I know Susu say I just talked about Haaland playing consistently.
But Lewandowski went to the Euros with Poland. He has an excuse if he's tired, and he's 36 or 37. He can be tired.
Yeah. But you need somebody who can take that burden off him. Yeah. And Ferran Torres might step in. He's definitely not at that level.
Barcelona fans always have their knives out for him.
Almost steps in once in a while, but he's better playing in a more withdrawn position. So I feel that Barcelona needs somebody else who is at the level, maybe not at the level because there are not many players at Lewandowski's level, but who is close to that level, who can take over the goal scoring range when he's not available or he's not having his best form. And they don't have that at the moment.
Yeah, I just wanted to say two things about Real Madrid. With Felamendi, his problem is that he's basically a negative going forward. He's very good defensively. He's very solid. Yeah. But when it comes to going for it, he doesn't offer anything. But I don't think that's a problem when you look at this Real Madrid that's stuck with attacking talent. You need some guys who are not going to go for it and don't offer anything. I think that sometimes that balance is okay. The second thing is Real Madrid lack a certain profile in midfield, which is the kind of I can put my foot on the ball, control the tempo, change the pace of the team, which Toni Kroos used to do. Luka Modric can do it at times, but because of his age, he can't play consistently week in, week out, 90 minutes. And that's what they were trying to do with Bellingham at the beginning of the season, to try and get him to be that guy. You've seen Valverde to try and do it. You've seen Tchouaméni do it. You've seen Camavinga try and do it. I don't think Tchouaméni can do it. I think Valverde and Camavinga have the potential, but they still need to grow into the role. Because if you remember, Toni Kroos also used to be a number 10 before he eventually grew into the role. You don't. There are very few players who are natural at it from a young age. So there's also that aspect about the players having to grow into that role. So that's a profile that they lack in midfield that might cost them in certain games. But generally, when it comes to having to play a counter-attack, rock and roll style, kind of move the ball fast, they are great. But if they have to play against a set defense, you see some of these issues come up.
Well, it looks like when Barca and Real Madrid are slacking, Atletico Madrid want to take advantage, and that's exactly what they did. They were up against Getafe this weekend, and they managed to win by a lone goal. Let's get the highlights. To an impressive win there, and like you rightly said, they've been on quite a streak.
Yeah, I think it's the longest winning streak in the club's history in all competitions. About 11 or 12 games straight that they've won. So, and they had a slowish start to the season. Like things were not as good. I guess you buy a lot of new players. You need to figure them because Alvarez came in for big money. They paid a lot of money for Gallagher as well. Look, I think this defensive Atleti we are used to, he's trying to move past that. I think he's realized that, look, if you want to challenge for titles and
you expand your game.
You need to be a bit more offensive and that kind of stuff. They still have that grit. I'm sure when they need to, they can hunker down and do what they used to do. But now they're a bit more offensive. And Griezmann is looking great. I mean, people have been talking about Griezmann's legacy in the game. Where does he rank? And look, when you look at it, Griezmann's had a very good career. He had a lot of very good moments.
People even forget how good he was at Real Sociedad.
Exactly, which got him the move. So I think because of the lack of maybe a certain level of club trophies, maybe he's not won a Champions League. I don't think he's won a league title in his career because both times he was at Atleti, the year Atleti won, they swapped. He and Suarez swapped.
That's true.
So he's not one, and then he joined Barca when things started going down. So he didn't win anything there. So sometimes people forget these things, but he's had a great France career.
He's on 7 goals and 4 assists this season. Exactly. So he's just 2 goals behind Mbappe.
And Vinicius too. And he's not really been playing as a striker. He plays as a striker sometimes. He plays as a midfielder sometimes. Solos plays. Alvarez plays. They are moving things around. They are rotating. They are keeping it interesting. So it's good. I think it's important they qualify for the Champions League because of the money they spent. They definitely need to do that, or they'll have a lot of problems next season. But the way Barca and Real Madrid are not flying as we expect, there's an outside chance they could challenge for the title. And it's good to always have a third team mixing things up. Because
I like
for
it
a
like
country
that.
like Spain, where Barca and Madrid basically win almost every year, it's good when we see the Valencias and the Atletis doing their thing. Because right now, Valencia are last. You know, so that's just an unfortunate thing, but it is what it is.
Let me read messages that have come through. I haven't read messages at all today. This one says, Moises Caicedo is 10 times better than Sergio Busquets. You can't tell me otherwise. Imagine. This one here says that someone inside Koforidia, you know, he says, Nuno Espirito Santo did a Carlo Ancelotti against Villa. What a smart sub to win all 3 points for Forest. Massive Nottingham crowd stepped up when it mattered most. Big ups to everyone who's involved in the club this season. Are you a Nottingham Forest fan?
They are doing very well.
Yeah.
We should
They've entered the top 4 actually with that
But
result. I don't
again-
think they've dropped out based on today's results, but they did enter the top 4 based on their results yesterday.
It's very interesting to see them in the Champions League.
Yeah. Osei Yao from Sunyani says, Mason Mount, Sikano Ashe. Coach was right. That Sulemana move was totally wrong.
Yeah, he was subbed up after 16 minutes
Kamaldeen?
tonight. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, they were 3-0 down. So I guess the coach needed to change something now. But when you're the guy they choose,
But
it's
we'll have time to talk about Mason Mount on this show one of these days. Obuo from Dansoma says, evening, at this juncture, even Pantine 11 can stand Manchester City. Charlie, you guys. This one here says, good evening, Scorecard. It's better to forget about Arsenal than to allow them to break your heart again. Greetings to all Chelsea fans in China. Castro Steve coming from China with that one. Kwame from Jolu says, Harry Maguire's parent at the back was solid. Hope he holds on to that. Red. Well, I've always said on this show that he's my captain, your captain, his captain.
Look,
everybody's captain.
Maguire, when he's sitting in a deep back line, then they just play the ball, his head is
Solid
back.
guy.
He's fine. It's
Solid
when you
guy.
put him on
Unless
the
you're
halfway
trying to do
line,
those
halfway line, he has to turn and
hipster tactics. No, don't do that.
Classic
one
centre back.
This one says, seems it's a 2-horse race between Napoli and Atalanta for Serie A. Paramount Concepts from Cape Coast with that one. Abraham Jedu from Broadcasting.
Don't count Inter out.
He says, today has been another exciting football Sunday in my life when Darling Club United defeated the depleting Man City at their home. Hey. Anyway, this one is from, you don't add your name. He says, Esibe was announced man of the match few minutes to the end of the match, but was later given to Albert probably because he scored the winner. Interesting. So
I think that's fair. Because
Fred from Sunyani says, my humble request to Amorim is that he should give more attention to Ahmad and leave the unreliable Rashford alone. He has nothing good for United. I'm happy Ahmad is also not English. Thank you very much, Susu. Thank you very much, Edwin Kwakofi. Thank you very much to all of you who made time to watch the show and to those of you who texted into the show as well. Same time next week, Scorecard will be back on your screens.